Alrighty, is your TBS Crossfire's LED flashing erratically? I know this one here is a nice solid orange, but if yours is flashing on and off green and red and orange, and I'll splice in some video here of what that looks like, there may just be a fix for you. Now, this happened to me after upgrading my controller's internals to get more power through the JR port, and I left this thing running to test how well it could run down batteries, and this whole back section was against some cloth that was actually face down. And when I picked it up, I realized, oh, this thing's really hot, and this thing was flashing, and I was wondering what's going on. After Googling, there's not really much information on this happening, and long story short, so you don't have to watch the whole video, it was the RGB LED inside. So the fix, if it's flashing, there may be nothing serious wrong. You've just got to open it all up and find yourself a replacement RGB LED. It's a WS2812B style of LED, and the rest of this video I'll just show how I got in there and made the change and got this thing shining beautifully again. Okay, first step is to get this JR module back off the back of it, and it's held on with this sort of adhesive. So I've wedged a flat screwdriver in under there to get it off, and you can see that this is held together with two Phillips head screws up the top and not on the bottom. See, when I was pulling it off, it started splitting open down the bottom end, but you've got to get those screws out before you can open it. Now, I probably don't actually need to open this up, but I just wanted to get it open to show what's inside it. We've got an ESP12S expressive, what is it, a Wi-Fi module. You can program these in Arduino. It's running its own firmware there that you can update over the air. I don't suspect there's anything wrong in this box, and that's because I've been powering this directly through the XT30 on the bottom and causing that issue. So I suspect that I'm just going to unplug this and leave this box aside now. So for the next step, there are 4 screws on the back. I'll be removing them to see inside the module. Okay, so this is what it's like once you've got it open. You can see there's a bit of a light pipe here where the LED shines through. I've taken off the antenna just so I don't bump it around. Didn't really need to take it off. We've got a pretty basic regulator here, 27533G. So I'll test the voltage going in and out of that and what that looks like. Got an OLED display here, directional input, all the ports on the bottom. I still can't lift this board out, so I think it's stuck down. There are no screws on the back here, so it's probably got to be underneath this OLED display. Look, before I take that apart, I might power this up and just check the voltages on this regulator and see how that's going. Alright, antenna is back on for this test because I powered it up. We can see the LED just flickering here again. Okay, so here you go. I'm measuring the input voltage, so ground from that tab at the back of it and positive going to the left. Looking at about 8.03 volts coming from this battery. That makes a lot of sense. Now I'll see if I can move that across to the output. Yep, and we're seeing 3.29 volts, so nearly 3.3 volts, which is pretty typical what you'd run all the logic circuitry from here. So that doesn't really explain the flickering light yet. So after testing that this little regulator's been doing fine, I've taken out the 2 screws here which happen to hold the board down. You can see the little bosses there. On the back, we've got our RF module here on the back. Yeah, XF, so it looks like a custom sort of sticker on there. We've got this Bluetooth one here. This is a BT43H, and that does all your Bluetooth stuff. Little antenna on the side of it there, and I've checked out its data sheet. It's from Amped RF, and it has a ground on the bottom left down there and a power supply bottom right there. So I'm just going to get the multimeter on them and see if it's getting powered correctly. Okay, I've got the probes connected there, and over here we've got 3.3 volts, so that's powering just fine. Just go off then. I'll have to check into the rest of the circuitry then. Okay, looking at the rest of the circuit board, there's another regulator down here by the looks of it, because that looks like an inductor there. I couldn't find a data sheet for this, but you've got 2 capacitors, so they'll be your input and output bulk capacitors. You've got a voltage divider here that's probably setting the output voltage. So I'm going to try measuring. I reckon one of these is going to have battery voltage across it, and the other one's going to have an output voltage rail, and maybe that's the rail that's being sporadic and causing our flashing to go along. Okay, so measuring to this side of the capacitor from just the ground of the metal can, we're seeing 8.1 volts, which is pretty much just the battery voltage feeding in there. And now if I move this around to over here, doing two things at once, holding the camera, there we go. We've got a 3.5 volt rail here, and that's really stable, it looks like, on the multimeter. I might get the oscilloscope on it and check it out, but yeah, nothing suspect so far. Okay, just connecting to the output there, and you can see here, pretty stable, 3.60 volts. That was me bumping it. Yeah, so nice stable output voltage rail there. No issues, no reason to see this this constant flickering going on here. Hold the phone. See how this is flickering? Well, zoom. There we go. I just put my finger on it and it went solid color. See if I can do that again. Look at that. What's going on here? That fixes it. So what's going on here is maybe it got so hot that the WS LED has internally desoldered itself and become faulty, but maybe there's no problem at all, just the LED. Okay, so I've taken off the heatsink and its little thermal transfer pad, and this is what it looks like. And I've just inspected these soldering joints through the microscope. They all look absolutely fine. So I'm just going to touch them with the soldering iron and make sure that they're all definitely good. That's just heating up at the moment. We'll see if that makes a change. I don't think it's going to though. Okay, I've just briefly plugged this in. I'm not going to leave it plugged in for long because there's no heatsink. After resoldering those joints, now it's not flickering on at all. It's cactus. I don't know what's going on now. Okay, I'm troubleshooting a little bit. This looks like a 5050 WS2812B or something. It's got a ground pin up in the top right corner up here. It's got a positive pin down on this side, a data in and a data out. And I was looking at those signals and it looks like data's going everywhere. The positive pin here has 4.1 volts, which is more than the rails that we have over here, but probably fine because it needs that higher voltage. It probably can't run the blue LED at 3.3 volts. Okay, day two. I've been quite lucky that a friend of mine had some spare RGB LEDs he could loan me, so I'm going to see if I can substitute one of these for the LED that was on here. They have slightly different shapes inside, like similar but a bit different, so who knows if they'll be a direct substitution. Okay, so here's what I've actually done. I've taken one of these little strips. You've got the ground, the data in, and the 5 volts. You can see ground is in that corner, 5 volts is over here, data in is this golden one running to the middle here. So I'll plug in the USB, and here we go. See? So everything's actually fine. The only thing I've really done is changed that LED. Now I'm going to see if I can mount one of these straight onto the board. Alright, so here's the fix. I had replaced this and seemed to have burned off the replacement when I took it off here because I had the same issues again. So I tried one more time, bought a whole strip of these WS2812B LEDs, took one off and put it on, and now everything is working great. If I just plug this in here, beautiful pulsing light again, very smooth. Yeah, so that was the issue all along. It definitely was the LED, and it just needed to be replaced with a new one. It must have been overheated. It seems they're really sensitive to getting overheated, and my bodgy desoldering, re-soldering jobs. So yeah, job fixed now. Okay, so the next little fix is that I put a bit of wire across here to this pad that I ripped off. While I was plugging it in and out, I tore off the circuit board trace off that negative, and I love that TBS puts this little fuse here going to the ground plane. I want to keep that, so I'm just going to take this solder off here and solder it to my little bit of wire that goes to the fuse. And then I'll probably also put a bit of epoxy underneath this so that it's actually taking up the stress rather than these two little pads doing all of that mechanical work. Okay, and the OLED display sits back on there. I'm going to solder on all these pins. Turns out I never needed to take it out anyway. It was just that LED all along. Connector has been soldered on there. I'll get this thing back together. There we go, OLED's soldered back on. Lights flashing away nicely. All right, I've reattached these together, plugged in the bottom. I used some new double-sided adhesive to go in the gap there, and yeah, job done. I'll plug that in and show that it is now beautiful. All working again.